Hey everybody, my name is Jeff Reed, and I'm sorry I'm not able to join you in person today. I was actually at the Capture Summit on Monday. Officially was double booked. Was not able to be there. Couldn't get out of my other commitment, and so I hung out with y'all. Was talking about asynchronous communities and digital churches on Monday, and now I get to hang out with y'all and talk about some of this metaverse church here. What is it? Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. Either way, I am excited to be here, if even via video, to start to unpack some of what we're going to be looking at, what the future of the church is going to be looking at in the metaverse. And really, I want to do here a primer, a 101, a basic on maybe what the metaverse is and how we, the church, can take advantage of this technology, how we, the church, are already taking advantage of this technology. And so I'm excited about this course. By the way, you'll see a little QR code right there, a little TV this hand. Yeah, right over here. Go ahead and zap that QR code. The QR code is the full slide deck of what I'm presenting. If the QR code for some reason doesn't work, you know how that is sometimes. TVs are too small or whatever. Go ahead and do go.thechurch.digital/capture. Maybe it's a mouthful. Go ahead and take it. Go.thechurch.digital/capture. You can download the slide deck, follow along. There's plenty of URLs and examples that I'm going to share within the slide deck. So you'll want to go ahead and grab it. Go ahead and do that. Be my guest. By the way, I'm sorry I'm not going to be there for Q&A at the end, because that's honestly that's my favorite part. Answering questions, digging into this. Sorry, it's video. And I'm not able to be there in real time. But here's what I want to do. Go ahead and do for you. Go ahead and zap this QR code. This has got my phone number attached to this link QR code 484-324-8724. I stuttered there. 484-324-8724. If you speak telephone alphabet, it's literally number 4, the church. Number 4, the church. Go ahead and text me. Don't call me. It's 2022. Who actually uses a phone anymore to actually talk to someone? You barbarians, text me. Well, would love to engage with you all and answer any questions. Do it in the middle of the session. I don't care. I'll get to the questions as soon as I can. Maybe I'm on a break wherever I am, and would love to even engage just for a second via text. All right. And so don't expect me to like freak out when my phone zaps, because once again, I'm doing this recording. You're not texting me in real time. It's kind of like this simulated live type of thing, maybe here a little bit. By the way, here on the slide, you're seeing all sorts of other organizations that I work with and work for, and love what I get to do with Leadership Network, talking about Metaverse Church, and the organizations that I started, theChurch.digital, championing the idea of digital and metaverse churches, Digital Church Network, an organization that I started, a nonprofit that's aimed at launching, at planting digital and metaverse churches, and what discipleship, what disciple making looks like in digital and metaverse. New thing has been vital with Dave Ferguson's tribe up in Chicago towards creating a movement system, a discipleship system that works towards creating disciples, growing them into leaders that are planting churches, that are multiplying churches, multiplying movements, podcast network, Stadia Church planting. It's all sorts of awesome stuff. Like, it's 2022, and there are high caliber organizations right now that believe in digital, believe in meta, and these are just a few of them. It's crazy the doors that have God is opening up for people that are beginning to think different and are seeing, hey, by thinking different, we can reach different people than we can with the building. But we'll get there in a little bit. Let's do this. Hey, by the way, I run a production company. We do a lot of production sales and installs and design. If you're interested in some of this, from worship venues to studios to home studios, even a rig is set up kind of like what I've got here, sitting at my desk in my guest bedroom. TheChurch.digital production company. Click on TheChurch.digital. There's a link there for production and integration as well. Would love to talk with you about that. I've got friends. Garrett is the guy who does a lot of that work for me, and it is awesome work. But hey, let's dig into this, get more practical. If you're really interested in the virtual reality type stuff, I want to encourage you to check out these two links here: fam.digitalchurch.network. What this specifically is an online community aimed at helping people like you take the next steps. Maybe you've got a crazy idea, and you know what? We love crazy ideas. As a matter of fact, chances are in that fam, in that digital community that we've got, there are people that have had the same crazy idea as you. Maybe even they've executed the crazy idea. So you can get some help in getting that executed. So do me a favor, check out fam.digitalchurch.network. If you guys have virtual reality questions, by the way, it's a great place to go to dig into that. Fam.digitalchurch.network. And I mentioned Leadership Network. My job title with Leadership Network is literally Director of Metaverse Church Next. We get to dream, we get to talk crazy, we get to see how God is moving in and amongst, I don't know that I want to say it's moving amongst this Web3 technology, but we are seeing that God is moving among the communities that are happening as a result of it. And by the way, we'll get into this here in a little bit. There's a place where the church needs to influence the metaverse. Definitely a place where the church needs to influence the metaverse. There's really also a place where the metaverse needs to influence the church, maybe thinking a little bit different. We're going to get into that just here in a minute or so. But I'm excited about this. Hey, you know what? Let's move on. Commercial time is over. Let's get into the talk here. What is the metaverse? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. Let's start to unpack that. The metaverse is a synonym for Web3, Web 3.0. This let's go back in the history books here a little bit. Web 1 or the WWW, the World Wide Web. It's the information age. Remember that back in the 90s, 2000, AOL, when everybody was trying to build web pages as much as possible. CompuServe was your search engine of choice. Web 2.0 was maybe 2005, 2006. Thank you very much, Facebook. Thank you very much, some of the social media that came out. And now we move towards not just posting information on web pages like we were in Web 1.0. Web 2.0 was much more of a conversation. It was much more about starting to create some of that community. And in 2005, everybody loved each other. 2022, I don't know that we all love each other as much anymore, if we're going to be honest with that. But really, as we started to get into, forgive my clicks here, Web 3 brings in this age of experiences. Web 1 was all about as much information as possible online. Let's digitize it all and get it on the World Wide Web. Web 2 was all about social media and now starting to create community and interactions, which worked really good 2005, 2022, not so much. Web 3 is now this idea of experiences. We want to create experiences with these metaverse tools, and these tools are designed to create experiences. So let's start to unpack this now. Web 3 comprises of a number of technologies. Some of these technologies exist today. Some of them really don't have a presence yet, but even seeing what's coming is impacting where we are. So virtual reality is the probably the most prevalent one. Now, of course, I've got my little headset literally right here next to me. And so this is what we use to engage in virtual reality. This is the reality that it covers our eyes where we don't see the physical reality, but we're engaging in community. We're talking with people, we're going through experiences virtually. Augmented reality is more like this. This is not out yet. Okay, maybe Google Glass did something a while back, a little before its time. But when Apple releases these, Apple's already said they're expecting to get rid of this device, the iPhone. And instead, they're predicting selling a billion of these bad boys within 10 years. And so, as we go to an augmented reality, what we're experiencing here is a overlay of user interface on top of physical reality. A great example of this would be Google Maps. I'm driving down the road just today when I'm doing this recording. I drove my family from Miami, where I live, to Fort Lauderdale. And I was driving down the road and I had on my little car stereo, CarPlay running. And so I had Apple Maps, forgive me, I had Apple Maps running on the car display. And so that was the maps. Now, if I had an augmented reality glasses, I don't need to look down at my car stereo to see turn right in 50 feet. I would be looking through my glasses, and there would literally be a blue line turning right 50 feet down the road where I'm supposed to turn. The user interface is implied on top of physical reality. Reality is augmented by what we have. And so this is just two right here: virtual reality, VR, augmented reality, AR, that we have going into that. Then there's mixed reality. Mixed reality is actually closer to what I think Apple's going to release, where you have these types of glasses that you can see reality, but now you can see virtual elements and also augmented elements on top of it. And it really just continues to blur, to confuse maybe what some of this reality is. And this is where we are going as my focus kind of freaks out here. Forgive me. This is where we're going with this technology, where it is all going to be blurred together. On top of that, we're looking at artificial intelligence, how computers will influence how the computer intelligence, artificial intelligence can help us, maybe hurt us. Maybe we are in the middle of the matrix. I don't want to go crazy here, but this is some of the stuff that we're looking at. Cryptocurrencies, by the way, blockchain following that, some of the crazy stuff that's coming, yeah, by artificial intelligence. Right here, Siri just kind of cut me off midstream. Sorry, I didn't understand what you were saying. Cryptocurrencies, blockchain, crypto. We're seeing so much of this as technology in itself. It's more interesting how this stuff is going to go against current culture. Blockchain and crypto exists for the mere purpose that we do not trust organizations. Blockchain, by the way, has moved cryptocurrencies has moved more money in 2021 than Mastercard and Visa. Some of those corporations have, and so like we're seeing massive success, but they exist because we don't trust the U.S. government. We don't trust Visa. We don't trust Mastercard. By the way, we don't trust Facebook. We don't trust Meta. We don't trust. And so what's happening is these cryptocurrencies, these blockchain organizations, and this ideology is starting to get into our culture. And it's going to be really interesting how cryptocurrencies and really more than that, even blockchain starts to get into the church and what it looks like for a church to become decentralized as a result of the cultural shifts from some of these technologies. By the way, that right there, the decentralized culture as a result of this is I could spend hours just talking about that. By the way, I have spent hours. Go swing over to that link, fam.digital church network, and get caught up on that right there. All right. So we know this. The metaverse will affect the church in multiple ways. I teased this earlier. The metaverse will affect the church in multiple ways. We need to be aware of this. Number one, metaverse communication, education, International Mission Board. They told me this. International Mission Board. I had a friend over there tell me that when they use virtual reality to train people on how to learn a new language. They are 70% more effective when utilizing the goggles, when utilizing this technology, than when they are utilizing digital. So you want to go on a web page, you want to use, I don't know what it's called, Rosetta Stone to learn a language. That's nice. You want to use virtual reality? Actually, learning the Spanish word for apple at the moment that you're using virtual reality to grab that apple and pull it back to yourself, 70% more effective. And so we're seeing where a virtual reality is a learning tool, incredibly effective. Number two, metaverse discipleship. Can relationships in the metaverse grow into disciple making relationships? Can what we're doing, can these relationships be effective for the kingdom in virtual reality? I'll listen, I'll tell you yes. At least the churches that are in that space, which we'll get to in a little bit, are certainly yes. A metaverse mission field. Can people find and follow Jesus in these metaverse communities? Can I just say, like, if the answer is no to that, that's a very scary thing. Man has created a place that God cannot enter. Like, I don't know if you've kind of reconciled that in your head, but that is not a good answer. Mark Zuckerberg has created the box, the goggles that is going to keep man separated from God. Like let's hope, let's pray that's not where we are really are with this. And finally, metaverse churches is the ecclesiology of the metaverse, glorifying to God and honoring of Scripture. Can you do a full church? What does baptism look like in virtual reality? What does communion look like in virtual reality? When you look at the ecclesiology, Acts 2, can you do that in virtual reality? And the number five, metaverse culture. How are the underlying decentralized ideologies. How is this stuff going to impact society and culture? Lots of interesting questions in around that. By the way, the first word, meta church, was actually used way back in 1991. Warren Bird. I don't know if you're familiar with that. He actually claims to be the one to say it first. He told me. He wrote a book with Carl George, Prepare Your Church for the Future. And so 1991, give him credit for that. So here's what we want to do. We want to talk about this idea of experimenting. I mean, I want to encourage you all to experiment, to try something in this metaverse church area. And so maybe it's for you, it's trying on a virtual reality headset, looking around at the community around you, find some relationships, explore some of these different worlds that we're going to talk to. It's interesting. Like, you walk up to somebody, I don't know, downtown, whatever city you live in, you start talking about Jesus. Like, it's a scary thing. You walk around virtual reality and start talking about Jesus. You know what happens? Person may not agree with you, but you're not going to get f bombed, or you may get f bombed, but you move on and have a different conversation. It's a much more relaxed environment in these metaverse communities. And so, if you've never tried on the headset, try on the headset. Start to meet some people in the virtual reality communities. Have some conversations. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? By the way, don't even want a headset. Some of the software we'll get into, some of these communities actually work on your PC or your Mac. And so you don't even really need to spend the 299 on that Oculus Quest, on that Meta Quest. You can just do it on your own. Let's do this. Let's start to really unpack some of these communities where these churches exist. First off, I call this the training wheels of the metaverse. Altspace. Altspace is owned by Microsoft. It's the most balanced. It's the most safe. You were probably not going to get cussed out. It's probably going to be a safe experience here in Altspace. Microsoft owns it, like I said, and so there's strong parental controls. 18 to 85 are active in the world. And so there are people that will go into this world called Alt Space, Alt VR, and they'll launch a church. We'll get into some of those churches either, but they're doing a full church service in this area called Alt Space VR. They're building a full church building. And what's interesting is oftentimes we see a large number of agnostics, atheists, de-churched people walking away from the bride of Christ. First step back is through a pair of goggles. We're seeing this happen within these Microsoft sponsored communities. Crazy, crazy stuff that's happening. Next up is going to be Rec Room. Rec Room is tied to, it's a lot younger based. It's tied to PlayStation VR. It's tied to Xbox VR. So you're more likely to get cussed out by a 14-year-old in Rec Room than any other world that's out there. Let's just call it what it is. The community does lean younger. Adults are in the space, but they're not as prevalent as maybe some of the other realms. But it's a great area if you're going to try to like connect with a younger generation. You can, within the world, you can go like hang out in a dorm room. You can go play paintball against other people. And so it's and even like look at the artwork there in the picture. Feels kind of, what is it, Nintendo Wii kind of feel. And so it's aimed, once again, it's at a younger demographic that's involved in Rec Room. Next up is VR chat. This is the third probably prevalent world that's out there, community that's out there. This is the most popular, by the way. It's the largest. You're also more likely to see naked avatars walking around. Nobody really owns, or there's a corporation that owns it, but they're very decentralized and hands off on Rec Room. So there's no parental controls. It's estimated that 40 to 50% of the people within Rec Room are having virtual sex at any time in private rooms. There's bars that make six figures a month that are running in virtual reality. Like there's some really shady stuff that's happening in this area. I can tell you, I've had conversations with people that have been sexually abused within this area and have gone down that road. I can tell you, I've had conversations with people that have gone into strip clubs within VR chat. Like this is the dark space within virtual reality. Now, this is not the dark space the church runs from. This is the dark space that the church runs towards. And so I say this to say that we should not run away from. As a matter of fact, this is the reason that we have to go in to be the light of Jesus. And there are churches that are already going in aggressively into this area. There's Meta Horizons is next up is the fourth world. It's too soon to tell what this is really going to be. Facebook, they've got. If you heard Zuckerberg's announcement, was it November, December 21? Zuckerberg made a huge announcement pushing with a number of things, and we'll see if they can actually deliver. Side note, I don't know if it's a good thing or it's a bad thing that Facebook's connected to it, because at the end of the day, once again, people don't trust Facebook. They're moving towards a more decentralized approach. This is a new one that I want to share with you all. This is big screen VR. Now, this is not so much about building these virtual worlds and communities. This is about digesting content in virtual reality. Now, I was actually very against this idea up until maybe a month or so. I was all about that community and that relationships. Um, and this is more like Netflix in virtual reality. There's some avatar, some community, but not near what some of the other ones are. However, I know this is capture. You guys are about creating the video content. And so this may be a really interesting first step for some of you to take your video content and play it within these virtual reality worlds, and then have light avatar, not necessarily as heavy duty as some of the other worlds, into it. There's a church. Well, we'll get into the churches that's doing it here in a little bit. But what I hope you see here is that there are different types of worlds. Now, there's different personalities that are connecting to the different worlds. The personality of an alt space VR compared to a VR chat compared to a rec room, like there, it's a broad stroke of who's in those worlds, and it's going to take different types of churches, different approaches to do that. If you were to launch a church in Altspace VR and try to do that same thing in VR chat, it will not work. It takes different methodology in the same way that if you were to take your church and you were to launch it, I don't know, where I live in Miami, Florida, and you were trying to do that same church in, I don't know, this Akron, Ohio, you're probably not going to get the same response from, a very mixed uh, culture like what we have down here in Miami compared to something up in Akron, which does not have near the Hispanic influence that Miami does. And so there's different challenges. Start to look at the contextualization, some of these differences when you're really getting into this. Let's click through though here. Here's what I want to do. I want to start to talk about some of these different churches and start to describe how the different churches are operating in virtual reality. First off, we've got VR Church. If you're on the slide deck and click that link to grab that. Now, VR Church has no physical footprint. They've been doing virtual reality only. DJ Soto is a good friend. They've been doing virtual reality only for 6, 7, maybe 8 years at this point. They started in Altspace VR. Then they went to VR Chat. They went to Rec Room. They're spinning up. They're doing church in video games. They're doing like Final Fantasy 14, Rust. I think they're experimenting with Black Desert Online. They told me at some point they were experimenting with a church in Grand Theft Auto. Now, listen, I'm a very aggressive guy in where you can do church. Grand Theft Auto. Hey, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go kill my prostitute over here, and then I'm gonna go to church. I don't know. I don't know, but they're experimenting, which I love. I love that they're trying things and they're trying to find ways to reach different people. And that's important. Now, what they do is they live teach. So DJ Soto puts on his headset in avatar form, and whoever's preaching is preaching in avatar form in VR Church. Next up, we've got Cornerstone Church. Now, Cornerstone Church is a physical church. As near as I can tell, this is a physical church. This is the first physical church to do virtual reality. 2 years plus or minus, probably on that. And so, Cornerstone Yuba City, Northern California, launched a virtual reality church. Very cool. So they also do live teaching, where their preacher preaches in virtual reality in avatar form. By the way, their church is in Yuba City. Their Metaverse pastor, the pastor who's essentially the campus pastor for the Metaverse campuses, excuse me, he lives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So even like their staff is separated by across the country, they'll get people in different countries, different states scattered around. They are in multiple worlds. They're in alt VR, they're in VR chat, and they're launching, or maybe they've already launched in Rec Room. That's happening any week now. And so Cornerstone, if you're interested in them, you can check that out. Of course, Life Church announced December 2021 that they were doing virtual reality church, and everything kind of exploded. They are video teaching. All their worship, all of their teaching is broadcast in from their physical campuses, from one of their Oklahoma campuses, and that's what people are experiencing. So it's watching a video screen. I don't think that's a bad idea to get started. By the way, watching and broadcasting video in, we are finding that the people who are preaching in virtual reality get a better experience. We're seeing that there's longer digestion times when they're sticking longer when they're hearing it when an avatar is speaking, as opposed to watching it on video. Some exceptions here, and we'll get to the actually right here. Well, the big screen. So Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale, has been doing virtual reality for about 2 years, and they as well, and they have been broadcasting in their video into the big screen, big screen format. By the way, they've seen over 200 people come to Christ in virtual reality by piping video teaching and piping worship in. They're using that same big screen format to do. They're working on a Christ-centered recovery solution. They've done alpha, and so they broadcast video alpha, and then they'll break up into conversation groups in virtual reality. Really interesting. And the church, like I said, seeing 200 people plus or minus come to Jesus in this time. And so really interested in how this is working in a community where really now more churches are going into it, but it's not one that's been prevalent really. Big screen. It's been in beta for a while. And so I think it's finally coming out. By the way, just another kind of random Pastor Brock's not even really attached to a church. His 9 to 5 job is a hospital chaplain, and so, but for him, he does virtual reality on nights and weekends, and his model of church. Remember, thinking differently gets you a different type of person. What we're finding with Pastor Brock is that um, he has witnessed over 2,000 times in the past 2 years about Jesus. As in, like VR chat, the red light district, everybody's like virtual sex going crazy, wild, wild west. He'll just walk up to people and start talking about Jesus 2,000 times. Now, sometimes he gets cussed out. Wipe your feet, move on, wipe the dust off your feet, as we're told literally in the Bible, and move on to the next opportunity. And he's done this 2,000 times with mixed results. Like people are accepting Christ in virtual reality off of him just organically starting a conversation. Never mind the church service or any of the other things that we're used to doing. Hey, listen, this is one of my favorite quotes right here. Hopefully, as this comes up on the screen, let me hit it again. Today's heresy becomes tomorrow's orthodoxy. Now, I've heard Erwin McManus say this, and I actually had to like dig into Google to see all the people who have said this at some point. And as near as I can tell, it's Helen Keller. I really didn't know the theology behind Helen Keller, but today's heresy becomes tomorrow's orthodoxy. I'll be honest with you. The idea of virtual reality church, I've gotten more hate for that than anything else I've said my entire life. Hey, Jeff, everybody knows that all new technology comes from fallen angels. It's in the Bible. Jeff, everyone knows that the metaverse is where the Antichrist will be born. Hey, Jeff, everybody knows that the metaverse, that virtual reality, is of Satan because it's man made. Nothing man made can be from God because it's made of man. It's interesting. I don't know what to do with some of these buildings that we're doing church in with that mindset. But there's all sorts of controversy. There's all sorts of maybe negative thinking centered around this idea of virtual reality. Can I let you in on a secret? Um, hey, the printing press, like all the mess that's centered on the printing press. Did you know that was considered heretical at the time? Like go all the way back to the 99 theses posted on the door. and Gutenberg and everything that was centered around that, Gutenberg was considered a heretic at the time. Why was Gutenberg considered a heretic at the time? Because the priests who, for decades, maybe centuries, hand wrote the Bible step by step by step. Gutenberg's printing press put him out of a job. And as a result of Gutenberg giving the Bible to people, no longer the priest doing it, giving it in the hands of the people, Gutenberg by many was considered a heretic. It's crazy. The advances that happened as a result of that, the industrial revolution shift that in many ways was influenced as a result of the Gutenberg's printing press. Yeah, but it's countercultural. And so it's amazing to me how true this statement is. Today's heresy becomes tomorrow's orthodoxy. Because look, at the end of the day, this photo is really not that far away. And this is when I talk about the cultural shifts that's going to happen. Look, when I put this headset on and I'm looking at cartoons, I'm looking at video games, I'm looking at, okay, this isn't really real or it doesn't look real. And to be honest, anybody who puts this headset on feels awkward. I get it. Look, and I'm not saying that virtual reality is the win all, but when I can put on a pair of augmented reality glasses and I can be sitting across from a Starbucks looking somebody in the hologram eye and having a conversation with them about something, man, a lot of this cartoonish, a lot of this isn't real. A lot of this starts to go away. And as we look at what augmented reality is going to do for communications, I mean, honestly, I think even rivaling what some of the internet and some of the smartphone era that Apple brought in, this device is going to blow it away. And I'm not even talking about blockchain and crypto and how that's going to create a whole new revolution of decentralized organic movements of church. Look, where we're going in all of this is going to be, it's going to be a new world. Will the existing physical church survive? I hope so. We need the existing physical church. The physical church is going to reach the type of people that the physical church will reach. But we need to understand that, I don't know, over the past 25 years, we've roughly lost 25% of people that are engaging in the physical church. So to say the physical church is the end all, it's not. We need other ideas. We need other ways of thinking. And like I said before, we're finding that different churches, metaverse churches, digital churches, micro churches, house churches, we're seeing that these different churches are reaching different types of people than the buildings are reaching. So we need to experiment. We need to dream. We need to innovate. We need people like you out there and dreaming different dreams and trying different things. So let's do this. Let's talk about some of the opportunities to reimagine virtual church. And really, I wanted to hone in here a little bit with on this because I want to talk about virtual reality worship. Here we go. Worship, like actually doing the musical portion of worship. First off, I would probably suggest that there's an opportunity to reimagine what worship is and not just do worship as in musical worship. There's different ways. We'll maybe get to it at the end of this. Technical aspects are still new and they're untested. Virtual reality, even though it's been around 5, 6, 7 years, it's still very raw. And so understand that, a lot of you have studios, a lot of you have very nice AVL rigs within your studio venues. This is not like running an LED wall. The technology here is very raw. And so thank you, Resi. Thank you, some other corporations that are pouring a lot of resources into virtual reality, but understand that it still is very much new in the technological aspects. Audible and visibly some of the limitations. Hey, you remember like in COVID when we tried to do Zoom worship and you try to like hook up your acoustic guitar to the computer, and if you really had the nice rig, you could probably do it, or if you had like a soundboard via USB hooked up to it, you could make it work. But your volunteer didn't, and so he would like just or she would just use the mic like that was built into the laptop, and it sounded like garbage, and somebody's like kid would be crying in the background, and you'd hear that over the guitar. Oh, come on, like you know what I'm talking about. Now that is not that far away from where what virtual reality is because some of the technological limitations. There are ways to overcome those limitations. Those limitations may or may not be volunteer friendly, may not be mass friendly. Some may have it, some may not. And so these are some of the challenges. This is why video worship's not that bad. By the way, a lot of the churches that do church in virtual reality, very few of them do music, or it looks different. Maybe it's one song. I know one church, they tell everybody to open up their mics, and they get everybody wearing these headsets with their mics singing, and so you can hear 50, 60 people singing the song, and it's weird, like it's not in sync and it's delayed, it's it's beautiful when you understand the context of what's happening from a technical experience, um, less than satisfying. So these are some of the limitations that you have here with this. Corporations like Resi, like I mentioned, are developing streaming solutions right now. They're working on, I don't know if I can say this, sorry Resi, but they're working on the two screens, the two streams hitting into virtual reality within Alt VR. I think they're working on. Excited about that. But once again, there's opportunities to reimagine what worship looks like. Some of these virtual reality churches are building virtual reality campuses just like their physical campus looks like. I mean, like literally, we have built for people buildings off of the blueprints that their physical building looks like. Their virtual reality building is almost brick by brick the same thing as their physical building is. And I guess that's nice. I've got a friend of mine. He leads Oasis Church VR. His name's VR Tiger. I say he's a friend. Actually, I have no idea what his real name is, but it's virtual reality, so it's okay. He's preaching through Leviticus, or he was maybe a couple months ago. And so what he did was hit like the world that he preaches from. He actually built the tabernacle, like the tent, the whole thing, and like they've got an area where the cows are slaughtered, and so like you can see the blood dripping off the cow like in real time. A little gruesome, a little real, but like this is what worship can be. Worship can look different. A spoken word, a scripture reading, a testimony. So often the church, at least the U.S. church, gets locked into the musical portion, and music does play a part, but it does not have to be the exclusivity of worship. Oasis Church, like I said, is a great example there. By the way, another example of just reimagining worship. We're actually working right now to design. Remember Wild Wild West VR chat? We're actually designing a bar. We're designing a virtual reality bar for a church to do church in. There's a church. It's Christ Church up in Cincinnati, Ohio area, I think, somewhere up there, and they already do church in a bar. It's a big physical church, but one of their microsites is a is a physical church that meets in a bar. Like literally, there's a bar. They don't even call it Christ Church; they call it church in a bar, and they've had so much success with it. Now they're looking to do VR church in a bar, and so we're building out a VR world for them. Excuse me. The big thing that I want to encourage all of you is to start to work through this idea. And DJ Soto talks about this a lot. There's three really innovative principles that they do with VR Church. They explore, they experiment, and they establish. Explore some of these worlds. Try something different. Be the person. Look for the person of peace. Walk around. Try. Listen. I've been telling scary stories centered around um, VR chat, but maybe you're the person that's going to go in. Maybe you don't have any business being near VR chat because of some of the things that it will expose in your life. And maybe you need to not worry about that, but maybe you need to support someone else to go in. Maybe you're more aimed at the kids, or maybe a safer environment, or maybe you want to get more into the video games and start to engage in that community. What's important here is that you explore things, different things. Look and see where God is moving and pray about joining him in his work. It's from experiencing God back in like 1970s. I think it's like 1976. That quote's older than I am. Look and see where God is moving and pray about joining him in his work. I want to challenge you to look and explore what's happening. Now, when you're exploring, you're going to get an idea. Don't drop $500,000 on the idea. Nothing, well, maybe something in the metaverse costs 500. These churches, by the way, they're spending like $50, $100, a couple $100, a couple $1,000, maybe 10,000 total. Like, there's not a lot of money spent in this because a lot of them are experimenting. They're trying different things. They're trying to figure out how to, what is it? The bullet before a grenade, a bullet before a cannonball. They're trying to start simple, and I think that's the challenge I would have for you is figure out how to start simple with this. And once you've explored, once you've experimented, now you can establish. Now you can do something. So this is the path I would challenge a lot of you to do: explore, experiment, and establish. All right, so questions on this. By the way, like I said, join the community, fam.digitalchurch.network. This is an online community that we've created to answer questions like this. We do trainings all the time. Just recently, we did a training on world building in virtual reality. And so would love to offer some of this to you. You can check it out at fam.digitalchurch.network. Links to our YouTubes over at youtube.com, the church digital, to find a lot of those on demand trainings we've already done, as well as podcasts and shows, live shows, and other things there. And like I promised, my cell, once again, on paper, 484 paper. That's kind of funny. 484 324 8724. And so this is it. Here's literally giving you permission. If you have questions, maybe someone in the room is going to address it and talk about it. I don't know, but you've got my cell phone. Don't call me. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Text me 484-324-8724. Monsters wanting to call. Who talks on the phone? This isn't 1997. It's 2022. It's time to move on. Hey, thank you very much, Capture Summit. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today, but I appreciate the time. I'm going to hand it over to whoever is next in the room. God bless. If I can help in any way, please let me know. Thank you.